Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Groot-Nibelink, and I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero G draft strategy, and contributor to Yahoo Fantasy. In this podcast, Blake and I are going to talk about the biggest hot shots and have-nots of the early season. Let's get it. Well, of course, I have your friend and my best friend, Blake Creamer, here with me. Blake, how are we feeling tonight?
Buddy, this night, this is, I mean, I know the season just started, but this is one of the best fantasy nights of all time. Oh, God. Austin Matthews, hat trick. Boone, Jenner, 36% rostered, hat trick. Buddy, I got called out so much on our Discord, on X, and everything else. Like, I was loving it, man. Last night was amazing, and I actually had a little bit of capacity to watch the Blue Jackets game, so I saw like him skating out for first star, and yeah, everybody, all right, this man's a player, and I love that he's going to be like the highest waiver ad now. It's about time, all right? Congratulations, Boone Jenner. You've arrived.
Yeah, I can actually probably help guarantee that he's going to be one of the higher ad players because he's going to go in Yahoo article that's going to come out the same day as this podcast. So
everything is coming into place here.
Definitely think that it was a big week, like big performances across the league. It's going to be pretty sweet. Let's jump into some news and notes, some newsies, as Blake would say. First one I've got here is Pavel Buchnevich being evaluated today. That's Sunday. We should know more maybe late tonight, most likely tomorrow, as per the coach there. So we'll just wait for information there. In the meantime, it kind of drags down Thomas and Kyrou a little bit, kind of throws that power play into a bit of throws the power play for a bit of a loop for sure. Wonder if it maybe opens something up for Vrana, considering that Buchnevich was the left wing on that line, that top line. Even if Vrana doesn't go straight to that spot, maybe he just by process of moving up the lineup just gets a little bit more of a chance. So keep an eye out for Jakub Vrana and that move. Another one, Stamkos, surprise day-to-day designation today, lower body injury. Hagel, the clear beneficiary, moved up to the Point Kucherov line. So we'll see, obviously. I don't think did he get anything tonight? The game is ongoing as we're recording this. Hagel is -1 with 2 shots and a couple of hits so far. So not much doing, but he does have a ton of ice time. So he's got that going for him at the very least. We'll see if there's anything more. Anything more on those two, Blake?
No, yeah, just Hagel in general has been a bit of a surprise this season. He's put up some really decent metrics, like shots on goal and scoring chances for, Corsi for, those things we like to look at here at Apples and Genos. Yeah, he's showing out a little bit, or definitely standing out a little more than he did last season, right? Where he was kind of a no thought. And he was doing that on the second line. So of course, when he gets bumped up to the first line and potentially first power play, all those things go away. So, that's fantasy hockey, folks. But yeah, I'm low-key interested in Hagel here. I mean, obviously he's on rosters. So, I think it's, if you don't have Stamkos, you're probably loving having Hagel in there. Maybe not tonight, but yeah. And then Vrana is exciting as well. I'm a big fan of Vrana, just like you are, but obviously St. Louis has a terrible schedule this week, and he was getting minimized. He had 11 minutes in the first game. So yeah, we just got to watch that game. If he gets good deployment, maybe you put him on a watch list and pick him up, the week after next.
Yep. Agree there. Matt Boldy left the game on Saturday against the Leafs late in the game. No update as of this recording. Apparently, we're supposed to get an update on Monday when the Wild practice again. So hopefully we hear something then. Hopefully it's nothing too big, especially for all of the fantasy teams that I drafted him on. He's one of my most highly rostered players. So thoughts and prayers going out to Matt Boldy here tonight. Also, Taylor Hall is apparently Wolverine, as you tweeted earlier today, Blake. He's going to play Monday after being designated week to week. What was that, 2 days ago now?
I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah. What is this guy doing?
I don't know. Something's going on over there. They got to make sure they infuse Connor Bedard with all of that and make
Yeah,
sure
totally.
he never misses a game ever in his entire career. That's all I got to say about that. All right. That's it for news and notes. We can move on to the main crux of this episode. So, if you watch this show or followed along with the podcast last year, you probably have some sort of idea of what we're going to be doing for a good chunk of this show here. We're going to be talking about the hottest and coldest players around the league. Hot shots and have nots is what we're calling the segments this year. And we got to start this off with Austin Matthews. I mean, there's probably not a lot we need to say for fantasy purposes. If you have Austin Matthews, like me, you're loving life and everything is coming up roses. If you do not have Austin Matthews and you chose a bunch of plugs over him, as a lot of people were doing, and I've seen in fantasy drafts, real live fantasy drafts, where people were selecting inferior players to the God mode Austin Matthews himself, then you should have listened to us because we were going to steer you right in that regard. But Blake, is there anything to say? Austin Matthews, only guy projected for 60 plus goals this year. What do you think the rest of the season outlook is? Do you think we got 60 goals in the shoot here?
Well, it's a great start. 6 goals in 2 games. Like, yeah, he now like we're 2 games in, so we're not going crazy, right? We know it's a long season. It's we just have to temper expectations, but yeah, this gives him a good shot at getting 60, right? He's already got 6 in 2, so now he can go in a little mini slump, and we're still loving life. So, I just a player like Matthews, the underlying metrics last season, like we're all looking good, like all elite, some of the best in the league, and he just wasn't converting. So, it stands to reason that, if he's fully healthy and his wrist is good, like that, some of those are going to start going in. And obviously that's been the case here. So I'm super stoked. That is such an epic way to start the season. So yeah, kudos to you, Matthews owners. I was telling Nate, I didn't get him anywhere because I didn't have a pick higher than 6th, and he was just going in all the leagues I'm in. But I saw Matthews falling to like 9th, 10th
Yeah.
in some leagues. What the hell? Who let this happen? All right, that show ain't no good, and now you're paying for it because yeah, he could really just pop this season, kind of like he did 2 seasons ago.
For sure. All right, from my team to yours, let's talk about Brock Besser. 4 goals in his opener last week, and follows that up with another assist for 5 points in 2 games on the season, running about 17 and a half minutes. Average time on ice, 24th in shots per 60 across the league in the early going here. That's a nice number. We like to see it. That's just something that I'm really looking for from Brock Besser this year is the underlying stats to kind of back it up. We know that he can be put in a position here, power play 1 and stuff like that in Vancouver, where he can have this opportunity, but is he going to actually back that up with his own play, or is he just going to be more of a passenger guy and more of a streamer level guy? Can he really elevate on his own, which it seemed like that was there underlying for him, especially earlier in his career, and then it's kind of gone off the rails a little bit the last couple of years. I'm still holding out some hope for Brock Besser. I got him in a couple spots this year. I'm rooting for him. How about you, Blake?
Yeah, absolutely. I obviously, you all know if you listen to the pod, I'm a fan of this man, and I did pick him up in a bunch of spots as well. I think I have him on 2 teams, but he's not a 4-goal player. This is that was a special game, so that to expect that, like, I get this all the time. I don't know about you, Nate, but people, messaging after a big game of someone, they're like, I should have picked this guy up. Like, oh my God, I got to go get him right now. It's like, yeah, like that's called chasing performances. All right. And we don't want to be doing that. Right. Besser is not going to be a 4-goal guy. I still think Besser will probably have like 65 points by season's end. If everything really goes well, 70. Right. And that's him playing at, peak Besser. And to be honest, in the first 2 games, he's looking close to peak Besser. Like, to me, the way that he has been historically, he's got some zip on his shot. He's skating well. He's hitting. He's engaged. There are times with Besser where, last season with Boudreau, where he's kind of just slinking off over to the bench. There's no intensity, and I just haven't seen that in the first couple games here. He's winning puck battles. He's hitting. Plus, I mean, it helps to score 4 goals in your first game. I mean, he got his hat trick off his skate, for God's sake. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about the player. I think 30 goals is absolutely reasonable. 60, points pretty much. I think that's good if he stays healthy, right? But let's temper expectations. I think, again, 70 points is probably the ceiling unless he just goes bananas. So, but I'm excited. Oh man, Besser, Boone Jenner, Matthews. This is what we're talking about. Oh, I love fantasy hockey. Let's get to this. All right.
All right. Yeah, let's talk about Boone Jenner for a second. Obviously, the hat trick here on Saturday night had an assist to go along with that in his 2 games here for 4 total points. Skating just about 19 and a half minutes a night, doing pretty much all the things we kind of expected him to do, at least for the early season here. Do have the looming prospect of, if Adam Fantilli really kind of takes off and takes over as a line one center, which obviously the Blue Jackets want him to be that guy for them long term. When that actually comes to pass, is that this year, next year, the year after that? We don't really know. But in the meantime, like, I've got Jenner in a couple spots. I'm loving life. He contributes across all categories, and right now he's scoring goals too, so I'm pretty happy about that. I don't know if you're happy about that, really, Blake. It's kind of hard to tell, over the microphone. We're not in the same room. It's kind of hard to judge your energy, but maybe just give the people a sense of where you're at.
That's buddy. I couldn't once I heard that. Even like my wife, she doesn't understand fantasy hockey. She doesn't know. She doesn't watch hockey. But I just told her like really quietly yesterday. I'm like, Boone Jenner just got a hat trick. She's like, oh wow, that's incredible. like she didn't, she knows who Boone Jenner is randomly because how much I talk about him, even in my personal life. So, yeah,
and in your sleep, probably.
Yeah, probably Boone Jenner. That's weird, but I'm owning it because this man is an Adonis, and let's agree on that. Beautiful jawline here. Anywho, yeah, very happy. Obviously, I'm not too concerned about Fantilli this season. I mean, unless he certainly after the first couple games, they're warming him in or warming him up like 16 minutes a night for Fantilli, and he looks good. He does look really good, but Boone Jenner just bought himself a hell of a lot of time, right? Comes out and just dominates. He might actually get 40% rostership here on Yahoo, which would be an actual boon. So I don't know if it happened last season. I was really, really trying to make it happen. I think I got him to 38%, and I'm taking personal credit for that. But yeah, hat trick for this man. I don't see that happening. This is very much like the Brock Besser situation, right? I mean, let's hold our horses on Boone Jenner. Very valuable player. He's not a hat trick player, right? He might get 25, 30 goals on the season. All right. But thank you, Boone Jenner, for your service. Amazing game. First star, as he should be every game.
Yeah. I did project Boone Jenner for exactly 30 goals, 57 points on the season. Still feel like that's within reach. 19 and a half minutes. So that projection feels pretty accurate so far. Basically Boone Jenner is who I thought he was. He got a nice start to the season. I'm happy for him. Hopefully he parlays that into a really solid season. Maybe some good variance his way this year, and we get even a little bit more juice on top. All right. Next guy I want to talk about is Philip Forsberg. This one's pretty interesting to me. So he hasn't scored yet in his 3 games. So he's got 3 assists, but more importantly, he's skating almost 21 minutes a night, ranks 3rd in the league in individual shot attempts per 60. And 3rd in shot attempts per 60, skating 21 minutes a night. That's where Forsberg's at right now. Clearly, they're running the offense through this guy. And, the on-ice stats don't look bad. Everybody's worried about this context in Nashville, but, 19th in Corsi 4 per 60, 20th in scoring chances 4 per 60. Again, this is 3 games. It's more of a sample than we've got on most of these players. It's not a great sample. Usually, I like to use a 5-game sample for most of this kind of analysis, but it's better than what we've got for a lot of these players that we're going to talk about here tonight. And so far, yeah, the early returns are really nice on Forsberg. He's if I had to pick one player to go out and acquire across all my leagues right now, Forsberg would be that guy for me.
Yeah, buddy, that is not even close to a hot take. That's great advice. I've got Forsberg in 2 spots because he was dropping like crazy in draft season, but I love this, man. Like you said, the deployment, that's not common for him, right? And the power play deployment as well. He's, look at these 3 games, first game, 74% power play share, second game, 72, last game, 57 power play percent share, but he had 7.5 minutes time on ice on the power play. So they're starting to do that in Nashville, right? Because there's a big gap between their top end talent and their lower end talent. So I think they're going to ride this guy. Yossi's value is sky high as well. I mean, he's had a little bit of a slower start, but Forsberg is the real deal, and I'm really excited about it. And he's going to start popping off, right, with these shot attempts, right? And Ryan O'Reilly has looked pretty damn good on that line too. Where just out of nowhere, I mean, whenever I watch Ryan O'Reilly skate, it just reminds me of Frankenstein, or like when I was learning to skate and like my knees weren't really bending, and I was kind of motoring down the ice. Like, he doesn't look good out there, but I don't know. He's got a bee in his bonnet this season. I think he's motivated, and Forsberg's kind of getting the benefit of that. And I like Parsonen too. I think it's a nice little piece there. He scored a nice goal the other night. So yeah, keep an eye on Nashville for sure. And Forsberg, yeah, go locate this man and get him on your squad.
For sure. Let's keep rolling and talk about Evan Rodriguez, who had a monster night the other night. 4-point night, 2 goals, 2 assists. Obviously, 4 points now in 2 games, but skating 19 and a half minutes a night. Line one with Barkov, and power play one, obviously, with Barkov and Tkachuk and all those kind of guys. Under the hood, the metrics look great. Obviously, a very small sample here, but Evan Rodriguez has kind of been a guy throughout his career who can put up shots, can put up scoring chances, but has not been a great converter historically throughout his career. He had kind of one stretch with Pittsburgh about half a season where he went on a run. I think it was about a 70-point pace he was on for about half a season, and then kind of fell off again. And really, that's the only like extended stretch of fantasy relevance we've ever really had from Rodriguez. He had a couple runs with Colorado last year where he had a couple good games together, but never like a sustained couple of weeks or month where we were like, yeah, Rodriguez is really doing it for my team. I'm glad I picked that guy up. He's been more of a streamer type. So what's our temperature on Rodriguez here? Obviously, the deployment's great. Obviously, we have some concerns about the efficiency of the player himself, but I'm willing to look past that a little bit just for the situation here. How about you, Blake?
Yeah, I think you pretty much have to at this point, right? Like at this time in the season, I call it like the great settling, right? Like, and it's gonna be a while, right? We're looking at a month of this, right? Where they're trying to figure things out. I mean, this guy starts the season on line one, power play one, Evan Rodriguez. What? And he's getting 20 minutes a night. I think you kind of have to, right? But yeah, this guy's had some efficiency issues. That's hard to say throughout his career, right? But currently he's cooking at 22%, right? Only 2 goals on 9 shots, so take it easy, everyone. But he's landed a plum spot. Power play one in Florida. That's amazing. Yeah, I think you got to just add him now, and then we'll sort it out later, right? I think when Bennett comes back, this guy's value might be a little bit cooked, right? Or it's going to eat into it, right? But right now, he's kind of the guy, and they're rolling with him. So I'm into it. I picked him up in 2 spots. And Florida has at least they have one off night next season or next week. So yeah, you're loving it. Go pick this man up comfortably, and you can hold and see what happens. I think by the end of next week, we'll have even more data, and then we can advise even better.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens when Bennett comes back. But talk about it with Boone Jenner, talk about it with Brock Besser. These guys, they're buying themselves time in these roles, right? Yeah. At the very least. So when Rodriguez has a 4-point performance, that doesn't go out of a coach's mind super fast, right? Unless he really turns around and stinks it up for the next week. So I think he's bought himself a little bit of leash for sure. And as long as he's there, I think he's got to be rostered in most standard leagues. All right, let's keep rolling. We got to talk about Rodriguez's teammate there and co-power play one specialist, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Ekman-Larsson is apparently that guy again, and apparently he's really good at it. He doesn't have any points so far, but he's skating over 26 minutes a night, and he is just bombing away. He is 6th amongst all defensemen in individual shot attempts per 60, despite that 26 plus minutes. Like, he is pumping pucks on net. So I'm kind of interested in Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He's widely available. You can get him just about anywhere you want to if you don't have some really sharp league mates who've already snapped him up. But as long as Ekman-Larsson has this role, as basically until Brandon Montour comes back, right? However long that is, as long as Ekman-Larsson has this role, I think he's going to be pretty valuable. And to be honest, like I said to somebody in the Discord today, I think he's probably a 50-plus point pace. Just almost based on the power play alone, but like the the 26 minutes, man, like
Yeah.
you can't beat that. That's so many minutes where he's just getting so much exposure to two guys that I projected for 100 plus points in Barkov and Tkachuk on separate lines. Reinhart is on even a different line right now. They're really spreading things out. I think that the Panthers are going to score goals. Like it's what they do. They play a run and gun style. They leave it open on both ends, and they kind of see what falls out. But I'm pretty into Ekman Larson. I think he's the biggest D pickup for sure at the current moment. Obviously has that expiry date. I do expect that Montour would take that job right back. But as, for the time being, like I don't see anybody else out there who's getting my hopes up the way Ekman Larson is.
Yeah, and they seem pretty comfortable with it too. I thought it would be a bigger kind of decision or like a back and forth. Like, okay, you got this game, OEL. Let's take a look at Forsling and see what he can do. No, they're giving the keys to OEL, and he's just running with it. Like I love the shot production, man. And we talked about this last season with Ek, Blad, Montour, and Forsling being like three of the best shot producers from the back end with Florida. I think it's just part of their offense, their game plan. Like Paul
Yep.
Maurice is like that's part of his offense. And I think Ekman Larson's just like, oh, thank you very much, my good man. Yes, I'll shoot the puck a little more, right? Like, but it's so weird because I picked up Forsling in a lot of spots thinking I'm all, slick, right? And I'm holding him because I still like Forsling. He's still getting some good deployment, but yeah, for fantasy, I mean, OEL has to be the guy, and it's killing me. Yeah, it's because I watched this man play in Vancouver too. He's defensively, he's a pylon, like straight up. He's a pylon, but we don't give a crap about that unless you have like giveaways or takeaways in your league or something. And then still, this man got 8 minutes on the power play in Florida. Damn. All right, you take the good with the bad. So, yeah, if he's out there again, this is kind of like one of those things you pick him up and you deal with it later, right? If he starts stinking, then you kick his ass to the curb, right? But I think, yeah, this is the defenseman to own in Florida right now.
Absolutely. All right, one more name that we should throw in here. Weren't sure if we were going to have time, but I feel like we should. I think we got to talk about William Nylander too, kind of flying under the radar, but he's got 5 points in these two games, overshadowed a little bit by the Matthews hat tricks, back-to-back hat tricks. But Nylander had the benefit of an overtime game in there, but almost 20 minutes a night. It seems like he's really going to be ridden a lot in an offensive context this year, and he's pumping shots. He's doing all those things, and he's converting. Like I think this, I was not comfortable with Nylander's draft cost. Basically on draft day, he was always going too high for me. I saw him late second. I was not convinced he was worth a second round pick. Late second, early third in a lot of places, and I was just not about that price because I saw some downside there. But he looks really good to start. And yeah, everything's up. It seems like he's found his niche here. He's playing for a contract. He's going to stick it to Leafs management for not getting a deal done earlier. And yeah, maybe there is something to that. I don't know. But yeah, whatever it is, he's got to be under his bonnet so far this year. I don't know if I'm like changing my initial projection on him so much as I'm just saying, yeah, there's a real player here, and we should all be taking note of it. And if you need that right wing, then you could do worse than going out to acquire William Nylander.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Especially on the draft cost that sort of, I wasn't into it either. There was guys I liked a little better there, but I mean, he had dual eligibility there, and that's kind of nice. But damn, yeah, Toronto's come out the gates just firing on all cylinders, and I love to see it, right? Especially for fantasy. Toronto is an amazing team. They got so many beauties there. Like I got Tavares in a bunch of spots, and he's crushing right now in like not kind of limited ice time. He's getting like 16, 17 minutes a night. I love that. But he's going out there, he's doing everything. But yeah, Willie, make way for Willie. Yeah, he's crushing right now. And just the fact that they have those two lines that can do that. I mean, that's why guys like Matthews and Nylander can crush, right? You got a defensive line, you got to match up against somebody that leaves the other line just out there, against a lesser line, right? So I'm a big fan of the player. I think I projected him for 89. I think that's reasonable. But yeah, his metrics too. Like what is it here? Yeah, like 20th in shots on goal per 60, 12th in individual Corsi for. Boom. All right, 24th in individual scoring chances for. Yeah, and he's flying right out the gate. So I expect this to continue. I think this is the player he is. Obviously he's running a little hot, but I like 90 points for Nylander this season.
Nice. You know what? I do want to slip one more in here with
Yeah.
Riley Smith. I just thought that Riley Smith has had a really underrated start to his season. He's getting some good deployment in the Pittsburgh top six and seems determined to make the most of it. The average time on ice is not that great because he's obviously not on the top power play unit, just over 15 and a half minutes average time on ice, but he's got 3 points in 3 games, 25th in the league in shots per 60, so he's putting pucks on net. You like to see that. And it just seems like Riley Smith is going to be a good fit there in Pittsburgh. And so I've got a little more hope for him. Maybe he's only a streamer option depending on the depth of your league, things like that. But Riley Smith has been a guy who's kind of come and gone in Vegas, but Vegas has kind of suppressed chances in both directions for a while, and it seems like Pittsburgh might be a little more up to what Riley Smith wants to do and produce those shots and produce those points. So it wouldn't surprise me if we get a season out of Riley Smith that we didn't quite get from him in Vegas this season. Your thoughts, Blake?
Yeah. It's always nice when you go to a new team and your line clicks right off the bat. Like Malkin, he looks amazing right off the start here. Like what? Where was this man like 2 years ago? I mean, he must have been dealing with something chronic or just something else going on because he's flying. He was flying last year, and he looks great again this season. And Raquel and Smith are beneficiaries as well. And that said, though, yeah, like Riley Smith, 25th in the league in shots on goal per 60, as you said. Like he's getting some really good chances just being on a line there with those guys. So yeah, Pittsburgh's looking really good. I feel like they're going to fall off a little bit. Like, I'm not really high on Tristan Jarry. I think he's he's a starter on a really good team, but he doesn't instill me with a lot of confidence. I feel like he's going to let in some softies, and this I don't know. This start for Pittsburgh, I think, is a little unexpected for me. Who I really want to start doing well is Letang. Come on, buddy. Oh, I love Chris Letang. I hated to see that they were taking him off power play one, but he's still so valuable. But yeah, Riley Smith. What's his roster ship? Damn, I was gonna look at that.
I could get that for you.
Yeah, let's take a look. Okay, yeah, he's 57% rostered, so he's out there, but yeah, I think he's not going to be for much longer if you don't have him on a roster now because his line is cooking and he's on power play too. And Pittsburgh looks really good. So yeah, go get this man.
Absolutely. All right, we will get to the have-nots, the players who have started this season cold, but I do want to take a second here. If you haven't already, please do join the Discord server. You can talk to 800 plus other fantasy managers. There's somebody in there at all times of every day talking fantasy hockey. So get yourself in there, get your buns in there, as Blake would say, and let's get to biz. I also want to let you know about the Patreon. If you have not heard, basically for $5 a month, you get access to the show notes from this show and the waiver wire show. The waiver wire show, I think, is the one that you definitely want the show notes for, so you can just look back when you're setting up your ads for the week, your streams, which teams to target. It's all right there in those show notes. So that's super valuable information, in my opinion. Yeah, $5 a month gets you that. Plus, it gets you a guaranteed answer to all your fantasy hockey questions from yours truly. And for $10 a month, you can get team reviews monthly from myself. I've done that for some people already. And yeah, it's just one way for to get that outside opinion. Everybody's always craving. You always see people post their team and say, how did I do? How did I do? Is this team going to take me to the championship this year? And the answer is probably not. You're probably going to have to work on it every month of the season. And so that's what you can do with me. We'll work on it together all season long, and we'll get you there in the end. I also want to take a second and tell you that you should be checking out applesandgenos.com, if only to get access to Mark Barber 18 Skaters on Twitter at 18 Skaters. His daily summaries that he's been posting, he's got it all set up where it kind of automates this output and gives you all the biggest performances from the night before. So you can, with your morning cup of coffee, just run over all the biggest events from last night's games and get yourself up to speed without breaking a sweat. I really think that's some of the best content that is coming out under the Apples and Genos umbrella this year. And while you're here, if you could like and subscribe if you're on YouTube or rate the podcast, give it 5 stars, that would be super helpful. We've had some boneheads in the Discord telling us how terrible things are. I think they're just trolling us, but they're bringing down our podcast rating, and that hurts our feelings. So
Yeah.
combat the trolls, help us out a little bit here, and yeah, give us the 5 stars if you're so inclined. If we're doing anything of value for you here, we would greatly appreciate it. All
Love
right,
it.
Blake, you ready for some have-nots?
I am ready. Nate, I'm surprised you didn't mention the new tier in your Patreon, the friendship experience. All right. I've talked about this before. It is $100 a month. So it's a little, it's a little bit, you got to, break the bank a little bit. But you know what? Nate says I'm his best friend. All right. Money well spent. Book it.
All right. Well, let's talk about a trio of best friends who are not doing
Oh,
so well. That's going to be
nice
Jeff
segue.
Skinner, Tage Thompson, and Alex Tuck. Yeah, this is not going according to plan. 0 points between the three of them through the first 2 games of the season, and they're just like not gonna play them, I guess. Like
Mhm.
Jeff Skinner is leading this group and he's under 17 and a half minutes time on ice. Tage Thompson is under 16 and a half. Like I guess they just don't want to win games. I don't have an explanation for what's going on here. They've lost both games and they've refused to play the players who can score goals for them. So I don't know why that's the case. If anybody in your league is worried about Tage Thompson, I would absolutely go out and acquire him right this second. He's 17th in individual shot attempts per 60, 51st in shots per 60. Like, it's 2 games. He's done very well for himself. I'm not worried about Tage Thompson in the slightest. So definitely would go out and acquire him if somebody's panicking. I don't think you're going to get that deal done just yet. You're probably going to need to see a bit more of an extended stretch before anyone's trading away what was probably their first or second round pick. So I don't think that's out there, but maybe there is a little bit of that for Skinner or Tuck that you can find in your leagues. Maybe you can find that trade somewhere if somebody's down on the Sabres already after a not so great start. Then I would definitely go looking for that. Let's talk about this here, Blake. Who would you be most interested in acquiring just at what you think you'd have to give up to get them? Like, obviously, you'd pick Tage Thompson out of the three, but,
Mhm.
you're going to have to give up a lot more to get him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you though. First off, like it's just kind of a crappy start. Like I cannot see the head coach playing them this type of deployment moving forward. Like these are your horses. These are the guys that got you where you were last season, close to the playoffs, and these are the guys you're going to need to ride. So I don't expect that to continue. Like in one of the games, I don't think they didn't have any power plays. Like I was looking into it and Tage had like 21 seconds or something on the power play. I thought like, oh no, like this is what's happening. But I think it might have to do with effort level. I saw a tweet somewhere just saying they were sort of riding like the middle stat line because they were the only line that kind of showed up, you know what I mean? And we're going out there and doing stuff. So, it's who knows what's going on behind closed doors, but I'm not concerned. That said, I mean, obviously I'm going for Tage Thompson, but if out of Skinner and Tuck, I kind of like Tuck. I don't know. I think like Skinner has a bit more name recognition. So I think Alex Tuck you could maybe get for a song. Like someone's like, oh yeah, whatever, 2 games, nothing. Like, yeah, get the hell out of my sight, right? But I've been impressed with the consistency of Alex Tuck. I think his floor is really solid, and I don't think he's going anywhere just yet. Right. So yeah, I think I'd look at Tuck there if you're going to try and do something like that. But yeah, Buffalo, really garbage start. I mean, those Devin Levi drafters, like I stayed away from Devin Levi this year. That's not looking too good. I picked up UPL in a league, which is
Oh,
kind of a
man.
prayer. It was like my last pick in a 16 teamer. So, I had no goalies. Like it's hard to do 0G in a 16 teamer, but I did it. But yeah, I mean, I got Grubauer and UPL are my goalies. So that's not good. I've been streaming in like all the backups. So that's kind of nice. But I would love if they went to UPL. But anyways, Zach Benson's the guy who's really cooking there in Buffalo. So I don't know. Just as a side note, take a look and see where Zach Benson is. Because he might look pretty good, especially if he gets over these 9 games.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I think that, I mean, he was on that line that was the best line for Buffalo in their last game, so it's hard to see them breaking it up. But at the same time, if they want to break up the top line, then Benson seems like the logical guy to do that with because they already proved that concept in the preseason. So I don't know exactly what they'll do, but I think there's some interesting ways that Benson could be an interesting part of a resurgence for some of these players. Yeah, I think I think Skinner might be cheaper to acquire. Tuck is the right wing,
Yeah,
so that might play into it a little bit. And yeah, Skinner, I think, still has a little bit of stank attached to his name from those seasons where he just disappeared under the thumb of Ralph Kruger. And so I don't know if it was if the cost was equal to acquire, then I would prefer Tuck just for the right wing. But I think that you probably don't have to pay quite so much for Jeff Skinner. And somebody out there is like, "Oh, I finally buy in on Jeff Skinner, and this is what he does to me." So I don't know. There's at least a chance out there that you can acquire at least one of these guys at a little bit less than draft day price, and that's
absolutely.
something that I'd definitely be interested in. All right, from that trio to a duo out of the New Jersey Devils squad, Nico Hischier and Timo Meyer, both 0 points in their first two games. Um, they have this power play
Yeah.
situation going on where they're splitting up the power plays. Hughes is on the other power play. Jack Hughes is on the other power play. And so neither Meyer or Hischier are getting that exposure, which is something that I know you and I both baked into our projections for these players. Hughes looks like a world beater, which was something that I think we assumed pretty much. I think we both had 100 plus point projections for him. I think we feel pretty confident in who Jack Hughes is, that he can be a superstar level player in the league this year. But I feel like he sure is a guy who rode a little bit. He definitely took a step last year. I don't want to take anything away from him. I didn't have a great projection on Hischier. I didn't think he was that good. He took a legitimate step last year. He improved a lot of his individual metrics by a significant amount. Don't want to take that away from him, but clearly a lot of it was boosted by some exposure to Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton and these other stars. So you take that away a little bit, and then I'm starting to wonder how much, like, is Nico Hischier a guy who's going to elevate an entire line on his own, who's going to elevate an entire power play on his own? I'm not sure he's that guy. Can Timo Meyer do that? I'm a little more confident in that for Timo Meyer. Timo Meyer has had a really bad start, though,
Yeah.
265th in shots per 60 and 155th in individual scoring chances for per 60, just 2 games, but that is not the Timo Meyer that we have come to love over the last few seasons in San Jose. And 17, just over 17 minutes average time on ice, which is, uh, it's okay, but it's not great. We would have hoped to see more from Meyer there. So, all things told, I'm just wondering if we need to kind of adjust expectations for these guys a little bit based on this power play. And just even if tomorrow they go back and they say, I think we're going to go back to the other power play setup where it's Heischer, it's Meyer, it's Jack Hughes, it's Dougie Hamilton, it's probably
Yep.
Jesper Bratt as the fifth. Even if they go back to that, like, who's to say that they're going to keep it that way? Like, the next time that power play goes into a little bit of a slump, do they switch it back again? And now we're back to this, and you're just going to end up getting stretches from these players where they're not as useful as we thought. Overall, I'm much more confident in Meyer returning to form than I am Heischer, but I do think that it's too soon to panic. I'm not advocating to go out and sell them. I'm just wondering if we need to maybe adjust our expectations a little bit. What do you think, Blake?
Potentially, for sure. Like this power play kind of threw us for a loop, right? Like that's very unexpected to kind of split it 50-50. It sort of looks like the way they're doing it. Like Luke Hughes is on power play one, basically with Jack Hughes, which is a big surprise. And then you got Dougie Hamilton on this unit with Heischer and Timo Meyer and Dawson Mercer. So yeah, it just cuts into everybody's value, but well, it hasn't cut into Jack Hughes or Jesper Bratt, right? Those guys are flying, they're playing amazing, but the good thing about these players, like, so both these guys are starting out cold, and they're both on the same line, and they're both on the same power play, right? So if one of them can start going, all right, and they start figuring it out, then by proxy, the other one's going to kind of go as well, right? But I'm with you. I actually projected him for 85. So I'm holding on that for now, right? But I don't know if they're going to do this power play thing all season. If they do, yeah, that's going to, we're definitely going to have to change some of those projections or our expectations there, right? And then Meyer, what the hell is going on here? He's not shooting and he's not hitting. So, I think we both pegged him for like a not really a big offensive season, right? I think I had him for 79. You have him for less, like 68 or something like that, right? So, which I think it's probably somewhere in between there. That's like ceiling and floor to me. But yeah, I still expect him to shoot and hit, and he hasn't been doing that. So We'll see. I mean, it sucks because, of course, the Devils are one of my favorite fantasy teams, and now they're doing this. They're giving us the old Rod Brindamore treatment. Like, oh man, no, So there are some players that I think kind of come out a little bit more valuable. Players like Luke Hughes, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but he hasn't done much with it, but he gets to play with Jack on that power play, and that's the power play that's cooking, right? That's the power play that's getting all the minutes. If you look at their last game here, Luke Hughes was the top power play minute guy, 3 minutes and 43 seconds. Dougie Hamilton played 42 seconds against Arizona. Yeah. Damn, like who saw that coming? And I don't see that continuing, but we have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, so let's talk about Luke Hughes a little bit because I am much higher on Luke Hughes than I was. Luke Hughes is one of these guys who got steamed up in Yahoo ADP, and now he's rostered on I think it's 80+% of Yahoo, 84% of Yahoo teams, of Yahoo leagues. Luke Hughes is rostered in. I definitely don't think he needs to be rostered in that many leagues, but definitely this early deployment has me changing my tune on what I thought Luke Hughes could be. I did have a decent little projection on Luke Hughes, even considering that he would be power play 2, as I assumed in the preseason. I had a 10-goal, 39-point projection on him, which is pretty solid. The problem with Hughes is that he doesn't really hit or block that much, and so you're kind of just banking on the offense to happen. He's a little bit more of maybe the Tyson Barrie mold, you might say, or somebody along those lines. So you really need that offense to be there. I'm not obviously sure that that's going to be there just yet. He's just under 19 minutes a game through the first 2 games here, but 19th in shot attempts per 60, 23rd in Corsi 4 per 60, 28th in scoring chances 4 per 60. The numbers look pretty good here for Luke Hughes. And I got to see a little bit of the games. He looks very good, obviously. You know what you're going to get from a Hughes brother, right? The guy can skate, the guy can move, and he can get around people with that ability. So I think there's definitely something here with Luke Hughes. If somebody's already what did I draft this rookie for? He's terrible, and you can get him for a song, then sure, I'm willing to try him out. But I'm still a little bit hesitant just based on the fact that if he's not scoring points for you, then he's really doing nothing for your roster. He literally has 0 hits and 0 blocks through the first 2 games here, and 4 shots total. So he's not doing much if he's not hitting and blocking. He's only there for your points, and if he's not scoring points, he's not doing anything. So these types of players are hard to roster, but I do think that there is a ceiling here. It's more of a Boone Byram situation where I'd be really excited if Dougie Hamilton were to go down to an unfortunate injury or something of that nature. Then I'd be really high on Luke Hughes because then he'd be the guy. And then, yeah, you could see him shoulder 22 minutes a night and all the power play duties, and everything would just go his way. And then he could be, I would have no problem projecting him for 50 plus, probably pushing 60 at that point. So definitely, there's a case here, at least for Luke Hughes, that I didn't know was possible before the season. And so I'm intrigued by Luke Hughes. If this kind of deployment starts to hold, if we see him, start to increase his even strength, time on ice share, but the points still aren't there, then I'll grow more and more interest in acquiring Hughes. But still just the kind of brand of player that he is, the archetype of player that he is, I'm not going out to acquire him just yet.
Yeah, for me with Luke Hughes, I did pick him up in 2 spots. I got roasted by Nate for that one, by the way. So there you go. Yeah. What now, Nate? What now? No, that's fine. Yeah, it was kind of not a flail pick, but there was slim pickings there, so I thought I'd go upside. But yeah, I like 17 and a half minutes in the first game, 20 minutes and 10 seconds in the second game, and in both games, just under 60% power play share. That's huge. I did not see that coming. So if anything like that sticks, I'm looking forward to another week of seeing what goes on with Luke Hughes. Also, it's a really neat piece, just mentally, his brother is the star of the team, and he's gets to play with them. So there's going to be, it's not going to be as nerve wracking for him, I would think, right? I'm guessing, I'm extrapolating here, but he can come in and just play his game. His brother is a legend on the team. This guy's one of the most exciting players in the league, best rush chance shot generator in the entire league, Jack Hughes, right? And this guy gets to come in and play with his brother, right? And I think they're sort of prioritizing that. That's the only reason I can see why they would put him on the power play with Jack Hughes. Is yeah, go play with your brother, right? And they're probably super stoked to do it. Jack Hughes looks like he's been shot out of a cannon. The guy's ridiculous. So yeah, I'm into it. I think I had him for a 41 41 point season, Luke Hughes. So I think, if this continues, that's, he's going to smash that. I think in 40 and 50 points, I think.
All right, let's talk about Owen Tippett, who's been a disappointment as well.
Yeah.
No points for Tippett, under 15 minutes average time on ice through the first couple of games. He's put together a bunch of shot attempts, fifth in the league in individual Corsi 4 per 60. So that looks still good. It seems like that part of his game hasn't quite gone away yet. It hasn't translated into actual shots or obviously goals, but he is still trying to get the puck on net anyway. But it does seem like with the re-additions, I guess you would say, of Couturier and Atkinson in Philadelphia, that Tippett has been kind of pushed down the lineup a little bit off of power play 1, where he did a lot of damage last year. And so you're left kind of wondering what Tippett's value really is on a team that doesn't have a ton of offensive depth. If you're not on the top unit, are you rosterable even? I've seen Owen Tippett dropped already in a league where it seemed like after 2 games, the manager was like, well, if he's not going to be there, then why am I hanging on to this dead roster spot? And I can kind of understand that. Like I've got Owen Tippett in a Bangers Cats, and I'm not ready to drop him there yet. But yeah, if this doesn't turn around, if he doesn't get those minutes, if he doesn't find a way to get onto the top power play unit, then yeah, he's going to be a tough guy to hang on to. What are your thoughts, Blake?
Yeah, it's a bit unexpected, just especially the way that he finished last season, getting like buku deployment, all the minutes. It's a surprise to see him down at 13 minutes or whatever, Tortellini's playing him. Just coaches, this is a head scratcher though. It really is. Like, they didn't play Kevin Hayes last season very much because they wanted to play the young guys, right? Owen Tippett is 24, Torts, all right? Sean Couturier, Cam Atkinson, not. All right. So that said, I mean, both Couturier and Atkinson have looked decent in returns. I think that's, that's a nice for Philly. Like, they're trying to win games, but they're not a good team. So I could very well see a kind of a repeat of last season with Owen Tippett. Like, he plays 50 minutes average time on ice for the first third, or, maybe half. And then in the second half, when they're well out of the race, it's Owen Tippett season. Right. So, but I think, I'm kind of with you. I have him in a Bangers Cats and I'm holding there, but in a points league that I was drafting, hoping that he might get 60 points, like, I'm definitely kicking him to the curb. Like, this is a guy you can probably pick up later on, right? He's only 40% rostered, and that's going down, right? So I feel comfortable dropping in a points league. Cats league, you probably want to hold for just see another couple games and see what the deployment's like. But yeah, he needs that deployment, and he's just not getting it. And I don't know if he's going to get it anytime soon unless there's an injury.
Yeah, a big part of the Owen Tippett thesis last year was that he was getting crazy minutes, like 20-plus minutes towards the end of last year in a lot of games. So obviously those minutes go away. You take, literally a quarter of those minutes away in the early going here, and that takes away a quarter of the production. Do the math, and then take away the better line mates and the better opportunity on the power play, and do that math, and it starts to add up. So not too stoked about that. Another guy I'm not too stoked about right now is Nazem Kadri from Calgary Flames. He did play, like, his line was the line that played the most at even strength. He is on the top power play, but the line mates here are Dylan Dubé and Adam Ruzicka. Hope I'm saying that name right. I've tried it many different ways, and I've
We didn't figure it out from
every
last
single
season.
time.
Yeah.
We never figured it out from last season. And quite honestly, I'm not sure that we need to.
I like the effort.
Purposes.
I like the effort. That's nice.
But yeah, I am concerned about Kadri, because if these are the lines, then I am concerned. Like, I want to see him with somebody with a little bit of juice. Like, even Blake Coleman would be better than these guys. Matt Coronado, I think, would be better than these guys. Mangiapane is now up to the top line, it seems like. So that's out the window for Kadri. A little bit of my thesis for Kadri this year was that he was going to get some time with Jonathan Huberdeau, because they were actually a pretty effective duo last year on the times that they played together. And it seems like it's going to be Huberdeau, Lindholm, top line all the time, and it's really more just a question of who's going to play right wing on that top line. So all that to say, Kadri is a guy I'm a little bit worried about. The early returns under the hood have not been great either. 218th in shots per 60, 96th in individual scoring chances for per 60, which is obviously a little better, but still not great. Kadri has been a guy who's been able to generate a ton and then be reasonably effective and efficient at converting chances. So if he's not able to generate a ton and he's playing with bad line mates at even strength, then you're really just hoping for power play points, and that's going to bring down the overall projection. He's a center only. Like, you can go on and on here with Kadri about the negatives. Still a player that I think is rosterable, but not convinced that this is a player that's going to be much above replacement level. Like, this is what the Flames lineup looks like now. Imagine if they get an injury to a winger here or there and what that lineup could look like after that. I'm a little bit concerned about Kadri. Your thoughts, Blake?
Yeah, I share all of that. I mean, this is never a player I was very excited about. His, last season I called for him to be a bust, and yeah, was correct on that. But that wasn't a hard call, right? He's coming off an 87-point season with Colorado on Power Play 1, right? So, I think the season he had last season is probably closer to what he actually can do, right? With 56 points in 82 games. So, yeah, that all said, it's his line mates. Yeah, exactly. Like the Doobie brother, Dylan Doobie. We don't, buddy, stay off the weed. All right. Yeah, I don't know. It's a gateway drug, right, Nate? I don't know.
So
Yeah,
I've
I don't.
been told.
Yeah, sorry. There you go. Yeah, I'm not excited about the player. Like he's good in Bangers Cats leagues for sure because he hits, so I like that. But yeah, it's a new coach, and that always affects things too, right? We've seen it. Huberdeau's been doing better. Even Uyghur, Lindholm, these guys have all started out pretty well, whereas Kadri's kind of gone the opposite. I don't think he's looked good out there, so just keep an eye on it, right? I didn't draft him anywhere. I was not interested at all. It's certainly because of the center only. So yeah, if you got him, you got to hold really because you probably put a little bit of draft stock into him, and he is power play 1 in Calgary, and he should do better. I mean, I don't know. What did you project Kadri for? Do you remember?
I
I'm looking
could
at.
pull that up really quickly here. It was
Oh
somewhere
my.
in the range of 59 points is what I had him for. But obviously, like a guy who hits, I had him just under 100 hits on the season. 257 shots is what I had him for. So, in leagues where you get some decent weight for that, or in a bangers cats kind of setup, then he's obviously got some value in those regards. But yeah, I'm just not stoked about the early returns here on Kadri and what that Calgary lineup is shaping up like. All right, I want to squeeze one more in here. Drake Batherson has now played 3 games, still doesn't have a point, averaging not great minutes on ice and playing between. I got to look this up because I've looked at this so many times because I'm so angry about it and I still can't remember the guy's name. Rourke Chartier, who is apparently a player who plays in the NHL, and Dominic Kubalik. Yeah, that's the situation for Drake Batherson currently. Get well, Josh Norris. Please, please, please get well, Josh Norris, and make it back here. We need you desperately in our time of need. Uh, Basically, Batherson is a guy, obviously, I think has a ton of value. Just an atrocious year last year, unbelievably poor shooting luck and on ice shooting luck. So, a guy that I was projecting for a big time bounce back this year, and he's not going to get it if he's playing on the third line, like clear third line. Uh, Here's the average. Here's the total time on ice for the lines here: 12:29 for the Drew Tkachuk Stutzla line, 11:39 for the Tarasenko Joseph Greg line, and then 7:43 for the Batherson line here. Uh, yeah, that's just not going to cut it. Even if he's on power play 1, it's a similar situation to Kadri. Honestly, I'm pretty worried about Drake Batherson at the moment. I hope that Josh Norris comes back and he is inserted onto the Batherson line. They do have some history there, obviously, from previous seasons. That's what I'm holding on to hope for here.
Yep. I'm with you. I did get Batherson in a couple spots just because his value was insane. I mean, based on our projections, right? Because I have him for a bounce back as well. His shooting percentage at even strength, dismal. All right, it was terrible last season, and it obviously hasn't been good this season either. So, he did have a nice first game there. 18 minutes, 21 seconds. He had 5 shots on goal, but the last couple games, time on ice, 15:46 for him, and then tonight, 15:31. Again, 0 points. He was -1 in all the games. He's barely hitting. He's barely blocking. So he's not doing what we need. But the good news is I do think that Norris is going to be back soon. Like, he's out there skating with the team. He just needs to be cleared. So whatever that issue is, like I feel like he must have had a setback or something at some point. But we will see Josh Norris, and I really am confident they're going to put him with Batherson, and I think that's going to make all the difference, right? But obviously, he's got to get cooking on the power play as well. Like he's still getting that power play one treatment and nothing doing, right? So, yeah, definitely concerned, but you got to hold, right? We got to see what happens with this guy and see what happens when Norris comes back.
All right, we gotta get ourselves out of here. But before we do, we're going to introduce one new segment that we're going to be talking about this year, all through the year. It's just something that I've always wanted to be able to present, but something I haven't really found a way to be able to do. We're going to call it Move of the Week. Blake and I are both going to present something that we did in one of our actual leagues this past week that we think there's something to learn from, for either for ourselves that we learned this week, something that we did that we're like, we shouldn't have done that, we should have done it this way, something that we're in hindsight, we're thinking we could have done better, or something that we think is just a good strategy move. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't, but it's a good strategy move that we want to bring forward. I talk about all the waiver wire players. We talked about that this week, and sometimes I pick different players. And why did I pick different players when I said this guy was the top waiver wire pickup? Well, it's because of, reasons E, F, J, K, all the way down to Z, all those other reasons that I'm factoring in for my specific team, for my specific league, for my specific lineup. So all those kinds of things are what we're hoping to bring you from this segment. So Blake, kick us off here. Talk to me about your move of the week.
Move of the week. All right. To be honest, like I had good matchup scheduling for the first week with almost all of my teams. Like my games played was crushing my opponents in almost every matchup. So I didn't have to do a ton, right? I spent a lot of my moves on, getting backup goalies and things like that. And then I had Zach Werenski in like 6 leagues. So I had to replace him. Just for fun fact, this isn't the move, but I ended up, in one league with Matheson. I got Chikrin in a really shallow league that I'm in to replace Werenski. So that really worked out. I got Owen Power in one who hasn't done anything, but I like the player. And then Siegenthaler, I had to pick him up and kick up full. Buddy, thank you for your service. Fill up the water bottles. All right. Go have a Coke and a smile. All right. Buddy's not doing jack squat, but that's fine.
I'm assuming you got him after the 3 assist night then?
Yeah, of course. I'm like, okay, I need a defenseman, and it's cupful. Keeping Carlson League is like 14 teamers, so it's the waiver wire is pretty dry, so that's fine. But I guess if I had to talk about one move, it was picking up Seth Jarvis at the beginning of the week. I had Ehlers in the injury spot, and I just didn't activate him. I left Ehlers in the IR, and or IR plus, and then I just rolled with Seth Jarvis. And yeah, I got him for his really good game, which was nice. He was beefing out of control, 7 hits, 4 shots, buddy, almost 7 minutes on the power play. And then he's kind of come down to earth a little bit, no points in the last 2, but that is a player that I'm fairly excited about moving forward. That said, the last couple of games, his power play share percentage has gone under 50%. So I think they might be moving Natchez back on the top power play. So we got to keep an eye on Seth Jarvis and see what the hell is going on. But, 21 minutes, almost 22 minutes the first game, 19 minutes the second game. So far in Anaheim, he's up to 11 and a half minutes, something like that. So we'll see. But that's a player I am low-key excited about, and I'm holding for a little bit just to see what he does.
Yeah, I'm just checking now. We're recording while the Anaheim-Carolina game is going on, and it looks like Jarvis is still there. Aho, Jarvis, Bunting, Burns, D'Angelo, that unit. They did just kind of end up splitting it fairly evenly, which is probably what you're seeing. So
right. Good.
Looks like he's still there, though.
Sweet.
For myself, my move of the week is going to be when you have this. We had kind of a rare circumstance this past week where you have a back-to-back from one team followed up by a back-to-back for another team. So we had the back-to-back from Chicago on the Tuesday, Wednesday to open the season. And then we had the back-to-back from New Jersey for the Thursday, Friday. And whenever you have this, you just have an opportunity to knock out 4 games played in 4 nights from your streaming spot, and that's just super valuable. Even if the player quality isn't too high. Like I ran Athanasiou and Corey Perry, and I was like, man, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to get a bunch of games played out of this and get that edge on my opponent. Athanasiou had an assist. Perry had, I think, 3 assists in the first 2 games.
Went off, buddy.
Yeah, something like that. And then I had Andre Palat and Alexander Holtz. Holtz did absolutely nothing. Andre Palat at least an assist, so he got me a little bit of something in those two games. But whenever you can get that kind of situation, it's something that you really got to look at closely and see what you can do with your streaming spots. I do think that it's just a super valuable way to get ahead in games played and get yourself that edge. It works really well in weeks that don't have a lot of heavy nights. Obviously, if there's heavy nights, they're usually kind of every other night that the heavy nights are coming on, because you get a heavy night where teams are playing, an off night where those teams that played the previous night are probably not playing unless they're on a back to back, and then the cycle kind of goes on again, right? Throughout the week. Usually it's like a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. It's kind of the heavy night schedule, and the others are lighter nights. So in weeks where those Tuesday and Thursday game nights particularly are not quite so heavy, then you can run into some situations like this. And it's really important to take note of that wherever it falls in your weekly schedules when it does come up. And that's something that Blake and I will definitely put out there for you if and when it does come up throughout the season. If there is a night, though, if there is a week rather, where there's true heavy nights, then that stream wouldn't make the lineup. So then I would advocate, focusing on off nights with quality players. That becomes a lot more important, focusing on the quality of the player. You're not going to get the sheer volume that you're getting in this 4 games and 4 nights that we had this past week. So then you're actually looking at quality, and you're looking at off nights only. So all stuff that we'll detail for you much more thoroughly in our waiver wire show that's going to be coming every single week. We're super stoked about that. We're super stoked about this show, and hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, which is a terrific free resource. Many thanks to the band There for supplying the music for this podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.